financing as we seek to work together to deliver results. So we know that the challenges continue, but though we see a lot of work on economic vulnerability, youth empowerment, climate threats, and governance gaps, these are not obstacles. They are opportunities for deeper collaboration, innovation, and trust. So Liberia's story is that of a nation that believes in peace, fought for peace, and now champions peace at the world stage. Let's continue to support this action. We acknowledge the challenges, but we know that the UN and all the member states will still have a lot of relevance. So the UN reforms initiatives is our bold response, making the UN more agile, efficient, and accountable. So we seek member states to fulfill their obligations, whether financial or otherwise, to close all the funding gaps. We continue to urge for support and for all the people of the world to continue working as we started for the Charter. And we continue to make sure that we make the lives of the people better. So as the UN turns 80, let us renew our pledge to the Charter's timeless vision, practice tolerance, live together in peace with one another as good neighbors. And congratulations to Liberia again. Congratulations to all of us who believe in the power of unity and multilateralism. Let us continue to work as one for the Liberia we believe in and the world we share. Thank you. Happy United Nations Day. Happy 80th anniversary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. You have to wait, Your Excellency. You have to still come again because it's about time for recognizing Liberia as UN founding member and celebrating election to the United Nations Security Council. As of your greetings, please rise and stand with Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, this plaque is presenting the Republic of Liberia, honoring her legacy as a founding member of the United Nations and the country's election to a non-permanent seat at the UN Security Council 2026-2027. Thank you for the long-standing partnership on this UN Day, 20th October 2025, and the anniversary of UN 80. Thank you.
Representation. This boy.
Thank you very much, and a round of applause, please. We will now have a special message from the government of Liberia by the Honorable Sarah Mescolienti. is supported by the Republic of Liberia.
They are top one level.
Your Excellency, President Joseph Boakai, President of the Republic of Liberia, the ministers, the members of the cabinet, President Christian Motoni, President Coordinator of United Nations in Liberia, the UN family, the Doyen Diplomatic Corps members present. Please allow me to stand on the existing protocols. It is with great pride and profound respect that I stand before you today as we mark the 80th anniversary of the United Nations. This commemoration provides us with the opportunity not only to reflect on the UN's achievements, but also to reaffirm Liberia's unwavering commitment to peace and security and human rights that the UN represents. As a founding member of the United Nations, Liberia has been a strong advocate for global cooperation. We take pride in our country's deep-rooted history with the UN, which has been instrumental in directing our nation's development, especially in times of challenge. Liberia's participation in peacekeeping missions, humanitarian programs, and sustainable development initiatives has left an indelible mark on our progress. This partnership has gone from conflict to recovery, strengthening democratic governance, and rebuilding resilient institutions. The UN's engagement in Liberia in economic development through the UN entities, UNICEF, UNDP, WFP, UNFPA, WHO, so many others, have contributed to critical sectors like education, healthcare, gender equality, and so much more. The UN support has empowered us to meet many of our objectives, and we remain committed to ensuring that the SDGs are achieved for the people of Liberia. Liberia's continued journey in multilateralism is underscored by our upcoming term as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council 2026-2027. It's very important to note so that history marks its first ever full term on the UN Security Council. When Liberia had the privilege of sitting on the UN Security Council in 1961, it was because that after 10 rounds of voting, where we only needed 66 votes to become an non-permanent member, we never achieved it. And the vote, it was decided by the General Assembly that Ireland and Liberia would split the term 1 year each because there was no decisive vote. President Boakai, thank you for your vision. Thank you for your leadership. This is important because we've now gone from being a problem, from being an agenda item on the UN Security Council, to being a solution and an agenda setter for the UN Security Council. This is a transition from being the discussant to the discusser. And may God keep us on this path of peace and stability in the mighty name of Jesus. President Boakai, we look forward to your leadership that will keep us there. And we see this as a significant opportunity to contribute to global peacekeeping, climate action, and development initiatives, ensuring that when countries transition from conflict to peace, that they never go back to war. As we celebrate the UN's contributions to global peace and development, let us remember the solidarity that the UN fosters across nations. Liberia is proud to be a member of the UN family as a member state in advancing human dignity. It will continue to work with regional partners like African Union and ECOWAS to address the global challenges we face today. We have received a lot from the UN, but we've also given a lot as well. Besides peacekeeping today, it was said before and I must reiterate, in 1945, our Vice President at the time, Clarence Simpson, in San Francisco, signed the UN Charter. Of the 54 countries we have today, only 4 signed, and we're one of the 4. In 1957, at that time, our permanent rep to the UN, the then Ambassador Charles T.O. King. He represented the UN Secretary General in Togo in 1957 to facilitate Togo's pathway to independence, representing the UN Secretary General, a major step for the Republic of Liberia. Angie Brooks Randolph was never Secretary General of the UN, but she was President of the UN General Assembly in 1970, the first African woman to hold that position. And as Liberia has said these landmarks, we look forward to more. Yes, we've never had a Secretary General of the UN. Actually, there's only been men. And Liberia is one of the countries within the advocacy for the first female Secretary General of the United Nations. But we have had 3 Assistant Secretary Generals from this country that have contributed to the United Nations. Former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was our first Assistant Secretary General. Winston Tubman was our second Assistant Secretary General. And I'm proud to say I was the 3rd Assistant Secretary General in the United Nations from Liberia. And also proud to say I'm the only Liberian that has held what they call the triple-hatted role of Deputy Special Representative of the Secretary General, UN Resident Coordinator as Christy is, and Humanitarian Coordinator at the same time for the United Nations. Liberia has done that. Liberia has contributed and is still contributing. And Liberia will continue to be a leading voice, as President Boakai has said last week. Liberia will not support the reversal of the UN. Liberia stands ready to support the UN towards reform and renewal. We need multilateralism for small countries like Liberia. We need to ensure that a rule-based world order. And Liberia, through the leadership of our president, will be taking this forward. And when he sits in December 2026 as president of the UN Security Council in New York, these are some of the issues he holds the gavel for the world. These are some of the issues he will be taking forward. Thank you so much, and congratulations to all of us as members of the UN. A round of applause, please. For Liberia. And I have another important aspect of the program, which is the symbolic launch of the United Nations Cooperation Framework, which involves the government of Liberia and United Nations Resident Coordinator. At this juncture, we'll invite Mr. Andrew Brooks, the chair of the Interagency Program, chair of the Interagency Program team, to speak about the cooperation. Welcome, sir.
Your Excellency, President Joseph Yuma Boakai, President of Liberia, Honorable Minister Sarah Bienslow Nyansi, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Dean of the Cabinet, Honorable Ministers and members of the Cabinet here assembled, distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, Honorable Superintendent of Margibi, and all the people of Margibi here assembled, including traditional religious leaders, our own resident coordinator of the United Nations system, heads of agencies, colleagues from the UN, and of course, never forgetting all the youth and the boys and girls here today. Thank you for this opportunity to say a couple of words about the UN Cooperation Framework that is going to be launched today and is going to be realized, implemented in the next 5 years, 2026 to 2030. This occasion today is reminding me of another moment of huge celebration and togetherness. I'm thinking 10 months ago in Buchanan, Grand Bassa, when the government launched the National Development Plan, the AAID, launched by the President himself, led by the Ministry of Planning and Finance, and of course the Ministry of Internal Affairs, because as the government launched their National Development Plan, they launched at the same time 15 county development agenda plans, including Margibi, of course. So those plans are all working together for some of the same objectives that we see in the National Development Plan. On behalf of the UN and the interagency program team that I represent. I'm the chair, but also the co-chair, because my brother here, Christian Mokoza, is the co-chair from the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. We want to say how much we appreciate all of the consultation that took place with UN, civil society, and national actors before that plan was even launched. It was not a unilateral plan conceived exclusively by government partners. They consulted. They allowed us to participate. So our job for the last 10 months to work together to develop what it is, the priorities for the UN Cooperation Framework, was much easier, because it was really just a question of aligning completely with what we see in those 6 pillars of the AAID, working together to identify the comparative advantage of the United Nations in supporting those 6 pillars. And I'll say a little bit about that. But first of all, when you look for the qualities and the comparative advantage of the UN, we want to think of a couple. As we celebrate here, looking back at 80 years, of course, we enjoy a trusted, historic, and close relationship. This helps a lot. We also want to believe that we can bring the technical support and advice based on years of experience, based on technical expertise, based on the fact that we're working in many countries, that collectively we can share and facilitate the exchange of experiences. These are very important. We can be a convener. Nobody can do this alone. There's going to need to be a broker relationships between government, civil society, private sector, diaspora, of course the UN, the diplomatic corps. This has to be one big plan. If you look at the AAID, it's extremely ambitious. That plan is not hiding from the challenges it has. Some of the indicators for the people, and we never forget the people, are very difficult. You know, if you look at some of the health indicators, the education indicators, there's a lot to do. But the targets in this plan are very ambitious also. They all point in one direction towards transformative change for the people of Liberia. Most of you will have a folder, I hope, of some kind in front of you, and in this you can see a synopsis, you can see a summary of what the plan is saying. And I want to draw attention to 4 particular flagship programs that we hope will really capture your imagination, capture what is important, because they've been closely negotiated with all stakeholders in the country as we move forward in the next 5 years. We have the human capital pillar. Yesterday, under the leadership of the Ministry of Education, the human capital pillar met, bringing together ministries of health, ministries of education, of course, youth and sports. The WASH Commission was also there, and of course the Ministry of Gender, Children. There's a lot to do in this sector. When we look at ARREST agenda, the E in ARREST is for education, the cornerstone of human capital. And that pillar is led by the Ministry of Education. As far as the UN is concerned, we decided to really focus on this pillar within the AAID, and we have 2 flagship programs there, 2 of the 4. You find them there. First one, it relates to the issue of education and skills. First of all, the President has made very strong commitments around getting kids that are out of school into school through the Back to My Classroom program. Then when you look at the education, you have the little ones, the foundational, early education, foundational, secondary, and then the skills training, so that the citizens of Liberia, as they grow up, they have not only access to education, but they have quality education to the point they've developed the academic and vocational skills to be able to really capitalize on the potential that this country has in terms of employment and its natural resources. This is the first one. We call it Edu Skills. The second one is around adolescent girls. We had an adolescent girl on this platform not too long ago. We believe these girls can do amazing things. Their potential but they also face some disproportionate risks. This is not to negate the boys. The boys are part of the solution as well. So the adolescent girls, we see the adolescent girls dropping out of the education system earlier than the boys. When the kids start school, you actually see from the data, there are more girls than boys. But when you get to 13, 14, 15, the picture starts to change. So I really focus on adolescent girls. One of the contributions of the WASH Commission, for example, to adolescent girls, is also around menstrual hygiene, provision of latrines and water in the schools and in the health centers. We think about the protection of adolescent girls, the rates of gender-based violence. If you look again at the AAID, very ambitious targets in relation to gender-based violence, and of course health, and the whole issue that nearly one third of the teenage girls in the country are pregnant. They're getting pregnant prematurely, they're losing opportunities that they could have in life. So this is one justification where all of us collectively, as UN agencies, are saying, according to our mandate and expertise, we don't want to be one agency on that, we want to work together under the leadership of the resident coordinator. You also have, within the UN cooperation framework, after human capital, you have an outcome on governance, good governance, once again aligning with the arrest agenda, the R for rule of law. In this particular flagship, we want to focus on digitization. So digitization is a way of moving on accountability. You can see things more clearly. You can see from afar what's happening. This is important both in terms of governance and accountability and in safeguarding the human rights and access to justice of the people of this country, including the most marginalized ones and living in the rural areas. This is our second flagship program and our second outcome. And finally, we have one outcome on the economic development and environmental sustainability. This will take you to the A of arrest, agriculture, amongst other things, with a strong focus on She Feeds Liberia, recognizing the degree to which women farmers are the backbone of the agricultural system and local produce, and transforming the food system in this country through climate-smart agriculture and women's economic empowerment. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, this is the main headlines of the UN Cooperation Framework. It can all be found in this flyer, which is in some of our folders, as something takeaway and easy to be able to represent what we would like to do as a UN family to contribute to the AAID agenda. Thank you so much.
Also, welcome the resident coordinator. Resident coordinator for this presentation of the United Nations Cooperation.
Half of the UN family.
Take you back. Yeah?
Thank you very much. A round of applause for the
Come behind him.
We are in Margibi County, in the house of the Honorable Superintendent on the BWI campus, obviously. This is a cooperation. So we'd like to watch this county control troop performance. We now have the Margibi County control troop, a special selection and country performance.
Watch cultural performance here at the Margibi County Cultural Troop. See them there gearing up.
Please let it be for at least 5 minutes. 5 minutes, yeah, please. 5 minutes. Time is fast spent. 5 minutes, please. Thank you.
Madam.
Let us reconcile. What is not the answer? He is a way. Let's support one another. Let's join hands to rebuild our country. Let us reconcile. Today, United Nations Day. Today, United Nations Day. Honorable President say, United Nations Day. All of you celebrate this day. Today, United Nations Day. Today, United Nations Day. I said today, all of you celebrate this day. I'm gonna wake up here. Today, I say today, Papa, all of you celebrate this day. United we stand, the Father we wait for. President Joseph Boakai say, celebrate this day. United Nations, bring peace to Liberia. Let us restore them and the rules of war. I say, today, United Nations Day. Today, United Nations Day. President Boakai say, United Nations Day. All of you celebrate this day.
mare ko wa.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Let's get at it.
Madam Dean and members of the President's Cabinet, heads and representatives of other governmental institutions, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Madam Assistant Secretary General from headquarters of the United Nations and members of your delegation, Madam Resident Coordinator of the United Nations in Liberia, and representatives and heads of other international organizations, Mr. Superintendent of Margibi County and other local officials of the county, members of the Traditional Council and other traditional leaders, representatives of civil society organizations, Mr. Chair, and members of the Board of Governors of the Booker Washington Institute, Madam Principal and administrative staff of the Booker Washington Institute, students, youth organizations, other invited guests, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On the occasion of the celebration of the United Nations Day, under the theme, the United Nations at 80, I have the honor at this time to present to you His Excellency Joseph Newman Boakai Sr., President of the Republic of Liberia, who will deliver the keynote address. Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Please have your seats. The Dean and members of the Cabinet, government officials, United Nations Resident Coordinator, and heads of international organizations, the Dean and members of the Diplomatic Corps, who have decided to make their parents happy, the country happy, by saying no to drugs today. I want to congratulate them. Maybe they don't know the decision they have made, what it contributes to the development of this country. I want to thank the Ministry of Youth and Sport and all of those who have helped to make this happen. There are a lot of people here that the women who have contributed a lot to this country. Some of them are sitting right here. who have served in prominent positions at the international level. Liberians, you ought to be proud of yourself. You've achieved a lot, but sometimes you don't know. Today we're coming, I was asking the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the good old song, the United Nations, we are United Nations, we used to sing in schools. I don't think most people even remember it now. Come on, Banky? Yeah. Oh, but you'll be the other one, huh? Thank you, Banky. We have to start teaching that. We know it. For the Masakwe used to do that for us. Thank you very much, Banky. It's a moment of pride for our country today as we celebrate the 8th year anniversary of the United Nations. As founding member of the truly global organization, we record our country took the decision in 1945 to sign the charter in San Francisco, and that decision was made with a deep sense of duty to humanity and to our common world. We therefore celebrate with joy the UN global accomplishment as we reflect on Liberia's proud history as a founding member of this respected organization. As a nation, Liberia has always been committed to the ideals of the United Nations, and we take great pride in our legacy of advancing peace, security, and human rights. Since its inception, the United Nations have been a cornerstone of global cooperation. As we celebrate its achievements under the theme, Better Together, 80 years and more for peace, development, and human rights. And here in Liberia, we are talking about one nation, one Liberia, one UN, and one humanity that we celebrate today. I want to thank Liberia for thinking this way, that we are one future, 80 years of partnership and progress. The United Nations stands as a beacon of hope and cooperation for all people and nations, working tirelessly to uphold the values of peace, security and development, and human rights. Today, we reaffirm Liberia's continued support for the UN mission and underscore our belief and leadership in advancing global peace and solidarity. Looking ahead of Liberia's term at the United Nations Security Council 2026-2027, we recognize the importance of collective action in addressing the world's pressing challenges, from sustainable development, climate change, to humanitarian crisis and conflict resolution. Liberia remains steadfast in its support for multilateralism, and will continue to contribute to the effort of the United Nations in achieving these goals. Today, as we reflect on the UN's impact on the global peace and development, it is essential that we continue to strengthen our partnership, not only with the UN, but also with our regional organizations such as the African Union, the ECOWAS, and all for us, including the Mana River Union. These partnerships are crucial, and as we navigate complex challenges and build sustenance, equitable societies for future generations. We recognize that much remains to be done. However, Liberia remains firm in its commitment to the upholding of the values of the UN Charter, which include peaceful coexistence, human dignity, and social progress. Liberia's engagement with the UN has shaped both the foreign policy and strengthening our domestic program. We remain dedicated to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. We will continue to prioritize education, healthcare, economic growth, climate change, climate action, as we work to build a resilient and self-sustaining nation. I also want to sincerely thank the United Nations Resident Coordinator, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and everyone who has worked tirelessly to make this event possible. The combined effort of the government sectors, the diplomatic community, civil society, and Liberia's citizens are crucial to our continued success as a nation on the international stage. I reaffirm Liberia's commitment to working with the UN, our regional partners, and international community to foster peace, promote development, and protect human rights. We remain dedicated to the UN core values of multilateralism and the global cooperation, which are more critical now than ever before. Together we will keep working towards a future prosperity, stability, and sustainable development for everyone, making sure that the UN vision stays at the core of Liberia's foreign and domestic policy. I want to thank you for your commitment to these shared goals, and thank you, the United Nations, for its continued support of Liberia and global community. We wish the United Nations long life, long live our common pledge to global peace and security. I want to thank God for this day, celebrating 80 years.
Thank you very much. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. We'll now call on the superintendent of Margate.
Boakai is touring the UWI campus along with the principal and members of the UN Council. He just came to the automobile area. He just concluded the program, the official program marking the 80th anniversary of the United Nations Day. And now he's touring the facility. That was the automotive department of the Margibi, the BWI in Margibi County, may I say. So now he just actually came in from the other area and he's here. You see the president. The president is here walking with the superintendent of Margibi and the principal of BWI. Now he's headed to the electricity department where he's going to inspect. If you're just joining us, thank you for joining in. This is the principal, Madam Freeman, Nancy Freeman, and we are here EU representative. They're a contributor to this school and the programs here. So now there's a tour happening. Just listening to the EU ambassador, also supporter of this.
Also free, this is like an apartment building. Here, new construction,
It's one of the head of the electricity department briefing the president on the different programs he has here. These are students. All the
guests, put your hand up, please.
All the female. They just ask about the girls' electricity. And the boys. Yeah, there are more men here, but at least.
Yeah,
just down in the front, right here, inside. Yes, at the front. So, this is the electricity department here, and these are students who are here as well. How y'all doing? Y'all say hello to the Liberian people? So y'all going to do a group picture? Yeah, here we'll try to see if we can connect with one of them so that they can tell us about the programs that they're doing here. We're about to do a photo with His Excellency the President. So, Madam Principal, you have to go there to join the photo.
Yeah, you have the name for me.
Sir, you can please join the photo as well. Please join the photo.
You don't take a good photo.
Please join the photo. We'll share it. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, we are at Liberia campus. The president is interacting with young professional students on legislative development. As you can see it, we're having a word with them. So for you're watching the phone, this is a show. As you can see, this president is interacting with these young folks. Stay tuned. As you can see, folks, things have been action. Young demonstration. Inter and national navigation program. These are young Liberians. Some folks are stay tuned. Like in Mikey.
Yeah, open up small.
Kakata, Liberia campus.
Open up small. Open up, please move.
Folks, here comes the president. His Excellency President Joseph Boakai, Senior, President of the Republic of Liberia. So I'll be back to Higa. Folks, stay tuned. President's on the tour. Okay, president is on the tour. Okay, folks. As you can see, I'm sorry. Now we are approaching the cabin 3 technology section. As you can see, a description there. Here comes the president.
Is that red on?
Here comes the president. President Joseph Boakai, Senior President of Liberia. So folks, yeah, as you can see, we have just entered the hall. Here comes the president. Just arrived. Okay.
On behalf of the staff and students of this section, we'd like to take this time to welcome you here and bring our students into holiday making and construction activities. We'd like you to take a tour of our section. Our students are free to measure the students in the work with the modern field of art equipment that was provided by